Manchester United 2, Sevilla 2. I'm joined by Stephen Howson. What on earth did we just see there?
Game of two halves, Joe.
It was a game of about six different sixths. It seemed to change on its head every few minutes. We started brilliantly, then they came into it, then we looked good again, then the subs happened, then the goal happened, then the Achilles happened, then the last 15 minutes in particular, to start there, was just ridiculous, wasn't it? Bad luck.
Do we know it's an Achilles?
We don't know it's an Achilles. It's either an ankle or an Achilles, but it looked like he reached round the back of his ankle rather than just, that's my speculation.
All right, I couldn't tell. I thought the way he was holding his foot, it was like a metatarsal had popped or something. Savage on comms was going on about Achilles, and I was sitting there, I watched on my own, and I'm thinking, where's he getting Achilles from? So I'm assuming everyone who's about to comment furiously on this video has just seen a press conference with Ten Hag who said that, it's his gooch or something. So they'll probably know more than we do. But yeah, I'm not sure it is his Achilles, but the pain he was in leaving the pitch, it doesn't fill me with a lot of hope, to be honest.
No. So just let's go back a little bit. We'll get to the United goals in a minute. We need to start at the end because that was just too much. Their first goal...
Oh, like a Christopher Nolan match review.
Yeah, some sort of Christopher Nolan match review going on. We'll start at the end and go back to the start. Their first goal, Malacia switching off, but this is where they get their first nice sort of slice of luck in it. He's pulling it back to the striker in the middle, comes off Malacia, deflects past De Gea into the goal. How much of that, where you sort of putting blame, putting luck, what led to that? Why did that happen?
I think what led to that was an attitude shift. And I thought from half-time, United came out with a bit of the job's half done attitude rather than let's get the tie done. Because we should have known that you wasn't going to be having Bruno Fernandes in the next round. Therefore, let's get the job done. And we can probably fuck around in the second round rather than the second half of the first leg. In the second leg, you could probably completely toss it off. We were capable of scoring 3 or 4 in that game tonight. Yeah. Very, very comfortable in saying that. And that's not always going to be the case, but I'm absolutely comfortable in saying that we could do that. I mean, Anthony could have bent his in. Sancho literally put his in, although he was offside, which was the correct call. But there was opportunities constantly in the first half, especially. The opportunities was totally there for United. They obviously fixed up at half-time. They got more aggressive. They coincided being a lot more aggressive with their press because in the first half, it was weird, right? They played a really, really high line. They was leaving themselves 1v1 at the back, but they weren't really pressing us as we was playing out either. So you kind of like, you're doing half a job here and getting completely exposed at the back. And United was just getting in for fun. And it was very reminiscent of the Everton game, almost not as good with the press. Second half, we switch Varane out and you go then with someone that's not as good a ball player as Varane. And I don't think he was necessarily to blame in any kind of way, but it was just two things kind of happening at once with they've upped their tempo and we've gone with a bit of a different option at the back. And I think there was probably almost a case of jobs done attitude about United. So we came out with a lot more sloppiness. We were quite clinical in the first half with everything we were doing. You've seen Anthony going left and right at people. Like, when have we seen this before? Like, it was a really, really positive first half. And then in the second half, it's just gotten sloppy all of a sudden. And I don't really blame Malacia or Maguire for their own goals. Both of them positionally could have been a bit more aware. We know Maguire doesn't scan. He had no fucking clue what was going on as he's turned around and just been smashed with the ball in the face. Is very, very unlucky for us. But I think we would be doing everyone a disservice if we don't mention there was a couple of saves De Gea pulled off in the game, which bailed us out of the shit earlier on. So let's not pretend that was the only 2 shots that they had, because it wasn't. They did have chances, and De Gea had a couple of really strong saves to bail us out of the shit earlier in the game.
Where do we go from here then? We'll start off with this tie specifically, but just looking toward the rest of the season. Let's be optimistic. Let's be conservative. Martinez isn't playing next week against Sevilla. Do you know what I mean? Minimum, I think we can say that with some certainty. Bruno Fernandes isn't playing. Marcus Rashford probably isn't playing. Luke Shaw probably isn't playing. Varane probably isn't playing now either. Like, that's 3 of the back 4 out. That's our most creative midfielder. That's our top goal scorer. How do you see us getting through this tie if we possibly can? Because whilst obviously they're going to have their tails up, they'll be at home, it's still a weakened Sevilla side. But then you see that 6, which I've never seen a team celebrating how many Europa Leagues they've won on their badge before. But they've got 6 on their arm, and it's for good reason, isn't it? How do we get past them next week?
Yeah, Real Madrid go into cyborg mode when the Champions League music plays. This lot do it when the shit starts kicking off, right? So it's the same sort of drill. Going to Sevilla in the Europa League needing a win ain't a good place for anybody to be in. If you want to get deluded about it and say, how do we go and win this game? You go and win this game by having the same forward 3. Not Sancho was started well and then faded. Anthony was probably one of his best performances in the United shirt in terms of how positive he was, and the bite in him was excellent to see. And I thought it was great to see Anthony Martial again. I thought he played really, really well while he was on the pitch. So there's a couple of positives that you've got. And I think from a midfield point of view, I think you probably bring Fred in. He brings that energy and that tenacity, which probably matches what you're going to get from them a little bit. I thought Sabitzer and Casemiro, Sabitzer especially, his deep running was not getting picked up in the slightest. Now, they might be aware of that for the second round, and that might be a bit more problematic to deal with in the next round. But you might be able to unload Casemiro a little bit. And I think having those 2 deeper with Fred ahead of him, and then going pretty much as you are and whatever you can do in defence, I think that's the only options that you've got. You've got to go and win the game. Where can we be stronger than them? Midfield. We can be stronger than them in midfield, and we can be stronger than them with our attack than their attack. So that's what you've got to go and do. You go and play the game to your strengths. They're going to be a bit more open than they were in the second half, at least. I think it'll look a lot more like the first half in the next game. But you got to be aware that we're up against it now.
Looking sort of bigger picture, again, I don't know what's up with Varane, but him getting subbed off at half-time suggests to me there's something up. He's also been rested a lot recently, hasn't he? Even when other players haven't been getting a rest, he's been getting a rest. Maybe some of that's because the backup is the club captain and there's a sort of responsibility to give him a few minutes, or he's kind of seems to be, holding something for a while now. Martinez, again, probably looking rest of the season minimum. Does this worry you for sort of top 4 FA Cup? How much has tonight sort of derailed things for you?
Potentially in a big way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting all sorts of texts from people scoring bucket season's over. It's not that dramatic, I don't think, but it's certainly a worry. You can't just brush it off and say, it'll be fine. Martinez at centre-half has been sensational for us this year, and the partnership that he's created with Varane, with Casemiro in front of him, has been fantastic. So that is a blow. If you're missing one of them, it's a blow. If you're missing both of them, that's problematic. Losing Marcus Rashford was something that we were worried about for a while. I think the way the club has spoke about it, I don't think it's too serious. I think it's kind of, we're going to be a little bit cautious with this because we probably can be, and we probably should be for once, rather than the patch him up and throw him out there attitude we've had to it in the past. I think what they might do is they might even keep their powder dry on him for the return leg and focus on the FA Cup with him, and see if we can get through that tie without him. Because if we can progress into the semi-finals of the Europa League without him and then push ourselves into the final because of him, I think that really then starts to turn the tide of this season. How are you going to get through the league games around that and in between that? I haven't got a fucking clue. You're going to have to just play what you can play, I think. I think the form of Sabitzer is nice. I think having Casemiro back is good. And that'll be a big bonus for us again in the league. Having Anthony Martial coming back, there is positives in there. You've got options at fullback, which means that the loss of the likes of Luke Shaw isn't as drastic as it could have been. But yeah, centre half is going to be a worry, no doubt about it. But I think when we've had our backs to the wall, we've invariably pulled out a result. And it's about time we got a better result on the road, I think.
Absolutely. Right, thank you for coming on and joining us today. Mental. One of the most bizarre final 20 minutes of a game I've seen in a long time. 2 own goals to bring Sevilla back into it. Well, we'll be here next week, obviously, for the return leg, and we'll have to see how it goes. But you'll be in for tomorrow for the brew, correct?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
I didn't hear that because it cut out on my end, but hopefully you said yes. Thank you. That's going to be all from me. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in a bit.